I told you, man. They're trying to control what you read, what you think, man. No, but seriously, they really are, and by they, I mean social media companies. Former news curators for Facebook have told Gizmodo that they routinely manipulated Facebook's trending panel, removing stories from conservative outlets even when they were trending, and in some cases replacing them with stories and topics that weren't trending. This, of course, contradicts Facebook's claims on their help pages that, quote, the topics you see are based on a number of factors including engagement, timeliness, pages you've liked, and your location. In other words, trending topics are supposed to be determined by natural input given by the user base. These former news curators even claim that the hashtag Black Lives Matter was at times forced to trend when it was not trending organically. This is consistent with Mark Zuckerberg's past public endorsements of Black Lives Matter, even going so far as to make posts about how employees changing Black Lives Matter slogans on the company's signature wall was unacceptable. So it's unacceptable for his employees to have their own opinions, but it's perfectly okay to manipulate what millions of people see in their news feeds. We're probably lucky that we actually have a right to free speech here in the United States because we already know that Facebook is perfectly willing and eager, in fact, to work with governments and police forces who don't respect free speech. Now, you may be thinking, who really gives a shit? It's just Facebook. But Facebook is used by over 150 million people in the US alone. That's quite a large potential for abuse if they're manipulating what topics people see in their news feeds. We know that many people operate on convenience, and so it's a lot easier to just check the news pages on Facebook, like them and add them to your feed, than it is to go to each of those sites individually. But apparently Facebook is concerned with what you think because, according to Gizmodo, this very story began trending several hours after they published it. This comes alongside an official denial by Facebook that their team is manipulating trending topics. At first glance, this seems like a bit of a he said, she said situation. Now, you might be thinking,
well, Facebook is a private company. They can run their company however they like, right?
And to some degree, this is true. However, Facebook is trying to give the impression of impartiality. They're trying to give the impression that trending topics happen naturally and that there's no manipulation of what news can be found on Facebook. The comedian and conservative commentator Steven Crowder has actually filed litigation against Facebook in the wake of this news, alleging that he's paid money to boost his post reach and has instead had some of his content removed. So if it turns out that Facebook is doing this kind of thing with not just Crowder, but with a lot of other content creators, this could have serious implications. And on top of that, Facebook's only real competitor is Twitter, who have also had similar allegations leveled against them. In fact, the Gizmodo article actually mentions that part of the reason Facebook was manipulating these trending topics was in an effort to compete with Twitter. A former curator is quoted as saying, "We would get yelled at if it was all over Twitter and not on Facebook." I should add that aside from news, there seems to be a lot of inequitable moderation going on Facebook. The somewhat popular anti-political correctness, anti-social justice warrior Facebook group, Social Justice Warriors, was also recently removed. And as you can see, no specific reason has been given. It just says that it violated the community standards. And yet someone like Gazi Kodzo,
So if y'all thought that I hated white people before,
who openly preaches hatred against white people and America, still has his page up, because I guess none of that violates
what community standards?
This screenshot was provided by a couple of the editors of the Social Justice Warriors Facebook group, namely Buttercup and fellow YouTuber iHypocrite. Hypocrite's channel and the backup page, Social Justice Warriors The Return, are linked in the description. Go show them some love. Anyway, to make matters even juicier, the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation has launched an inquest into these general allegations. It's not really clear what, if anything, is going to happen yet, but unless somebody is going to make some kind of free speech-friendly alternative to Facebook or Twitter, I think this does need to be addressed. Either Facebook needs to be honest with its user base about the fact that it has a political bias and is manipulating content, or they need to abide by the standards that they claim to have. It'd be one thing if there were 20 different companies and Facebook and Twitter were the only ones doing this, but really, they're pretty much the only companies, unless you want to use fucking Google+. But I think one of the things that I find the most concerning about all this is how young people feel towards free speech. Last year, a Pew Research Center Global Attitudes study found that 40% of millennials would be okay with placing limits on speech if that speech is offensive to minorities, whatever that means. So, once the baby boom generation is gone, the First Amendment could very well be in trouble.
We're breaking the conditioning! Ah! Ah!